Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I am so excited to be sharing a fun project with you for the December collaboration hop. These are Spellbinders club kits and I have a brand new kit to share with you. There is now a stencil of the month. This month's stencil is 4 pieces that layer up to create a single A2 panel. So here are the layers here. 2 of them have leaves. One has sort of stems and the base of flowers, and then this last one has sort of heart-shaped whimsical flowers. I have a piece of light gray cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I put that on a waffle flower grip mat. This is stenciled to you because I don't know how to follow the rules, but also because it made the most sense as I'm playing with a bunch of techniques today. So I added a bunch of anti-static powder because I want to heat emboss this. And I am going to add some black pigment ink through my stencil. Now, I have a hard time blending this black pigment ink sometimes. And so I've grabbed a paper pouncer. These, I think you can get them in the Spellbinders store, but they're available at lots of places now. Paper pouncers are a really great way to lay down a lot of color or ink without that repetitive circular motion that's required for ink blending. And so we're going to use a little bit of both today. Then I am adding on some black embossing powder. I don't use this very often because it notoriously gets everywhere and I end up with little flecks where I don't want it. But this is a pretty busy background by the time it's done, or at least it is in the color scheme that I chose. So I just went for it. I was like, let's make this a nice, rich, glossy black. And for me, I like using that black pigment ink so that if I didn't get complete coverage with my embossing ink, it still looks black behind it. Okay. Next, I'm going to bring in another layer that has like the stems and the base of the flowers. Again, in the corner of each stencil, there is a number to let you know which stencil it is. I've just gone over mine with a Sharpie to try to make it stand out a little bit more. This is layer 3. And then it has those little tick marks to help you line up that A2 panel. But this was really easy to line up even without using those tick marks. It nestles in perfectly into those leaves we already have. I'm using a blending brush for this layer. This one's from Trinity Stamps, and I like it because sometimes I have issues with my wrist and my shoulder, and this just ergonomically works a little better for me, and I don't end up with quite so many issues. So I'm going to peel that up and I'm going to show it to you again. I love mixing just some regular dye ink with some embossing, with some glittery, sparkly something. To clean my stencils, I use rubbing alcohol. I know a lot of you are familiar with that. But I like to lay down a towel and have one behind and then one that I sort of wipe the ink off with so that there's somewhere for that excess ink to go and it doesn't end up on my work surface. Next, this is layer 1 and it just nestles right into the base of the flowers that we've already put on there. And I'm switching back to the paper pouncers again. I really love it for embossing ink because when I'm putting embossing ink through a stencil, I want several layers of it, right? I want it to be nice and juicy, but I also want to make sure it's not going to seep underneath that stencil. I feel like this does a really good job of it. If you don't have paper pouncers, you could try using a domed foam. I don't feel like it picks up as much ink or gets as much coverage as quickly, but in the past with embossing ink, I've used those and then I do like a pouncing and twisting motion. I decided I wanted some serious sparkle on this. So I have a specialty embossing powder from Wow called Metallic Silver Sparkle. I'll see if I can find it somewhere and link it for you because I'm not quite sure where I got it. I'm showing you the panel here because I made a mistake. My dye ink, that teal ink, wasn't dry yet when I went to add my embossing ink and then the embossing powder. So I have some of that sparkle sticking to the blue dye ink. That's okay. I just went and poured more embossing powder all over it to make sure that at least it was evenly covered. This embossing powder really is a silver embossing powder with some glitter in it, but the parts that stuck to my teal ink are almost just glitter, which was really lovely. I don't know that I could replicate that if I tried again, but these are the happy accidents, right? For my final layer, I'm going to add some Gold Rush Lunar Paste. There are 2 gold-ish lunar pastes, and this one is more like an antique gold, and I love it here. Lunar paste is my favorite of all of the pastes that I have and have tried because it's so easy to clean up. This is water soluble. You can actually like thin it out and splatter with it and paint with it and do all sorts of stuff like that. So while you do want to wash off your stencil right away and your palette knife right away, I just feel like I'm not scrubbing as hard or worrying as much about it maybe getting into some other places. Once it is dry, you can still sometimes peel it off. It gets a little plasticky. It's kind of like peeling glue off of something. So I set that aside for a while and let it dry. We're hitting winter here in Nebraska, so it didn't take very long, maybe 10 minutes. And then I'm going to take this panel and trim it down. You definitely do not have to do that, but I wanted a little bit of a border around my card. I'm making a Valentine for my husband. I make him lots of cards for Valentine's Day, for his birthday, things like that. I write little notes and I leave them around the house for him to find. And so when I saw this stencil, it read pretty feminine to me because all of the samples were in pinks and reds. And I was like, I know I don't want to do that. So that's why I sort of gravitated towards this teal, black, gold. That black on our leaves is a really deep glossy black. And so I have some glossy black cardstock here. I have some from Trinity and some from Simon. I'm honestly not sure which one I grabbed this from. They're nearly identical. And I cut the center out of it because it's going to be covered up by my panel anyway. And I hoard my specialty cardstock. So I've added that onto an A2 top folding card. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of 1mm thin foam tape to the back of my panel. It gives a little bit of lift, a little bit of a shadow, but it's so thin, I'm definitely not going to have to worry about postage, even though I'm about to add some more die cuts on top of this. So as I mentioned before, this is part of a hop. It is a hashtag driven hop. So if you click on the hashtag in the title of my video, it should bring up a handful of other creators who are collaborating together to bring you lots of inspiration with the December clubs from Spellbinders. We're not sponsored by Spellbinders. We just love these clubs a lot and want to make sure you have lots of ideas on what you might do with them. I will also have a complete list of links in the description box below the video in case the hashtag isn't working for you. You will also find a list of all of the supplies, including all of the Spellbinders kits. This hop is on the 6th of the month, which means that clubs open today, and then they will remain open until the 27th of the month. So back to our card, I went to add my sentiment and a little focal point, but I didn't want to cover up all that hard work we had done on our background. And so I grabbed the Essential Stylish Ovals, and then this is the large die of the month, you guys. That die set is phenomenal. It's got 2 different sizes of wine glasses or champagne glasses, a huge champagne bottle, and then a couple of these little banners. This one says love you, and I'm going to layer it up. And then I just grabbed the stylish ovals that were exactly the right width, so my love you would span from one side to the other. I'm using my wet glue and just trying to get that centered on there. And then you'll see how that sort of fits right on top of it. Then as a little bit of a pop of color, I've decided to bring in some florals. You guys know if you watch my channel, I am a die cutter before everything else. And these are from the Envelope of Wonder. I made a ton of them when I first got it, and I'm still working through that same stash. They have served me very well. I think these are probably my favorite florals ever from Spellbinders. So I am going to add just one of these teal flowers on top of a stem. And then I'm going to add 1 leaf behind this large pink flower. These large ones, I think that's why they're my favorite, is because it's a great size. It's sort of whimsical and asymmetrical. I like that the centerpiece isn't just a circle. It's this sort of amoeba shaped something. So I'm just going to add those pieces on there with wet glue, and I'll stack them up kind of one piece at a time. Again, this is for my husband, so a little pink is fine, but I'm leaning harder on the teals and the blues, and I like how all of that kind of ties in with my panel. I tend to make all of my flowers in jewel tones, and then I feel like you can mix and match them and just keep them on hand for any card, any occasion, and that definitely worked out well here. If you didn't have florals, or if you didn't want to add a focal element this big, the other club kits this month have wonderful options for sentiments that you could add to this card as well. There's tons of inspiration on the Spellbinders website. and in the other videos on this hop. So definitely take a look at the links below because there's some really, really great options. I'm going to go ahead and pop up this little focal piece as well with that same 1mm thin foam. I'll add my little bit of wet glue because I want to make sure that I get that kind of straight on my card. And then I looked for the spot where I wasn't covering up very many of the blooms and that great shine that we get from the metallic silver sparkle embossing powder. And that finishes up our card, right? There's a bunch of stenciling techniques here. Even if you don't have these stencils, try using them with paper pouncers and pigment inks and different embossing powders. See what happens. Thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to hop along with everybody else, and I will see you next time.